welcome back to the Catalyst Effect podcast where we talk about Web3 games, regular games, AI, and all that good stuff. I'm here alongside my co-hosts, Clouds and Mizzy. Clouds, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. It's been a hell of a weekend for me. I was just in a car accident Friday, so that was freaking scary as hell. But I'm glad to be here. I'm super blessed that nobody was hurt, and we're just moving past that. But super excited to be recording another episode with you guys, man. Missy, how about you, man? How's it going over there?
I'm doing good, man. I'm grateful that you're okay. Prayers with you and
Thank you,
your
brother.
family at this time. And on my end, man, I've just been working really hard and gaming really hard as well. We spent the whole morning playing a mystery game that I will not divulge at this time, but shit was fun as fuck.
It was pretty fun. I was having a lot of fun in there with my combos and stuff, but hush hush, we're not gonna talk about that today. That's for another day. But yeah, man, it's been definitely we've been gaming a lot in the background. I've been stuck in Farlight. That's kind of like the game that I'm grinding out right now. I've been like just playing, trying to get back into my rank that I was before because the new season started. So I'm trying to get back into Ace and hopefully we hit Legend on this season. But I
Well,
heard
you
it's
got
really
to
tough.
Ace?
No, I have to get to Ace. Right now I'm in
Oh,
Grandmaster. So I'm trying to get but on the last season I got to Ace. Yes. On
oh,
season 10
because
I got
I
to Ace.
fizzled out. I fizzled out at Grandmaster because I was convinced that that was the rank I wanted, and I was done. Right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, I don't want to go any further than that. Like, I'm Grandmaster Hado now. Like, address me as such. But you know, uh, for me this week, I've been playing a lot of Street Fighter 6. I don't know why, but I've just been getting good at it. And here's the thing too. Like, people have been coming to my stream and teaching me as they kick my ass, and then I started kicking his ass, and then he's like, "Wait, what's going on here?" Like, I was beating you, and then for a while, I won like 5 games in a row, and it was like a mirror match with Ken because I'm like a Ken main, and
Yeah.
it was just kind of crazy how I would just pick up on things. Like, I would see someone do a heavy punch into like a drive rush move, and then I tried it myself, and I'm like, wow, it's really easy to do that. Like, it's really not that hard to try. So like, people are teaching me as I'm fighting them, and I'm just like, I keep like playing the game, and I'm going from like 9,000 points to 12,000 points in the gold rank. So like, I'm actually getting kind of decent at the game now. So like, I don't
How
know.
long how long have
Yeah,
you
go
been
ahead.
playing Street Fighter for? And how long has it been since you when was the last time you played Street Fighter, right? But before that, how long were you playing Street Fighter for, right? Because I do believe like muscle memory is definitely a thing in video games. So like for me, like that game was Call of Duty. So I haven't played Call of Duty
Yeah.
for example, I would say in like a year. And like the last year I haven't played it as much because I found web3 and I went into that type of stuff, right? But if I were to go back to Call of Duty, I feel pretty confident that I'll be pretty up there, like my skill will come back as soon as I start playing rank play and start noticing other players doing certain moves and certain mechanics. It'll start all coming back and I'm pretty confident I can be at the top, you know performance that I was doing before I took a break.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the person I was playing was kept on calling me Street Fighter 4 player because
Ah.
I was doing a lot of Street Fighter 4 technique.
Right,
So
right.
like, one thing that I don't want to give away my secrets, but one thing that you can do is like, when you wake up, there's like 4 different moves you could do. You could do a grab, you could do a high hit, a low hit, you could do a drive rush. I said 4, right? Maybe 5. And then you could also do like a special move. So like, you could do
Hmm.
like a Shoryuken, you could do like a flash kick, whatever, and you could wake up on that stuff. But a lot of people don't tech the grabs, especially at like low level play. So like, as soon as they get up, you can grab them again, or if you want to, you can do a light hit and they're guarding, right, and then you can grab them again. Because if they block the hit, it's an instant grab unless they tech it. To
Hmm.
tech it, you have to grab at the same time. So like, a lot of that stuff I'm just like doing all the time. And then another thing is like, when I go low hit, you can low hit into a combo. You can low hit, and anytime that like they mess up on wake up, like, you can start your combo again, right? So
Hmm.
I've just been grinding that game like crazy, and it's been really cool to see. Like, I don't even know what the ceiling is for me with the game, because I used to just jump in and kick, and it's very predictable. And people would kick my ass. But now I'm like taking my time, and I'm like playing around, and I'm dashing forward, dashing back, and I'm like holding my pose like I'm gonna, block them, and then I'll run in and fucking hit them low and hit them high, and it's just a lot of fun, dude. Fighting games is just like it's like chess with like I would say it's like a faster version of chess with a little bit more combo knowledge and pressing buttons rather than just moving pieces. Like it's
Mm.
very similar. Like I would say chess is very similar, but there's a little bit more thought behind chess, and then you will get attack. And I think like you think on the fly with Street Fighter because you have to adapt to how other people are playing, right? Like if someone's playing very campy, you gotta have to like get them to act more, right? And then
Yeah.
you can also bait them too. So you can like walk up when they wake, and then they might try and throw something out, and then you guard, right? So like you fake them out, and then you could like do this little dance thing where they try and grab, and if they grab and they miss, you have a free reign to do whatever. You can combo them, you can super them, whatever you want to do. So it's
Dude,
real fun.
I've always sucked at fighter games because I get impatient and I start spamming buttons and stuff like that. I'm the one person that's always gonna rush you if you're like just hanging out in the back and stuff. So I get my ass kicked. But I was more into like games like Killer Instinct and stuff like
Mm.
that rather than Street Fighter. I haven't played Street Fighter. I don't even remember what was the last console I played it on. But for Street Fighter 6, can I play that on PC right now? Or like what's the like what is the Steam, or like is it just like a regular download or
Yeah, it's on Steam. You can get it on PS5 as well. I think it's on Xbox. Don't quote me on that. I don't know because I'm not an Xbox guy, but I think it's on there as well. At least the last one wasn't because it was a Sony thing, but
Hmm,
I know it's definitely on PS5 and PC. But
okay. Cool.
yeah,
Maybe I'll
it's
download them and
definitely
I'll play with you because I like to have fun. But I'm not a fighter game type of gamer, so like you'll definitely like beat the shit out of me.
yeah. And the one thing that everyone needs to go try if they haven't played Street Fighter yet is they have to go to the Battle Hub and walk around because you can make your own avatar,
Hmm.
and you just have to walk around and see the degeneracy that's there. Because some people like you can make them as stocky as you want, as skinny as you want,
Oh
or as
no.
alien as you want too. Like it's
Oh
crazy.
wow. I never seen that before in Street Fighter, so I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I can't
But
wait to try out Tekken 8 on my end.
ooh.
When's that coming out? Or did it come out?
I don't. It hasn't come out yet. It's on pre-order. It comes out January 26th.
Hey guys, remember to elevate your audio game with Riverside.fm. Clear recordings for your podcast made easy. Click on the link in the description to get started now.
Not that I'm counting or
Nice.
anything,
That's
but
that's another game I haven't played in ages, man.
Yeah, Tekken's a lot of fun. I used to play a lot of Soul Calibur back in the day.
Soul Calibur, yep.
I got into
Yeah.
that game whenever it came on the GameCube, Xbox, and PS3. Two?
it was
PS2.
GameCube,
I
think it was
Xbox, and
PS2,
PS2.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Hihachi, or however you say his name, was on PS2. Spawn was on
Xbox.
Xbox, and then
Mhm.
Link was on GameCube. And everyone wanted the
Yep.
GameCube version because we wanted to play Link because it was like Link isn't a fighting game. That's crazy. Like besides Smash, right? Like
Yeah,
he isn't
yeah.
a fighting game, like an actual traditional fighting
But
game, right?
it definitely it was. I ended up getting all three. Like I saved up, got all three consoles, and played all three games because
Damn.
I
That's how much
wanted
of a fan,
them all,
bro.
bro. Like I especially Heihachi in
Yeah.
being someone that likes Tekken, being able to play as Heihachi and Soul Calibur, that was crazy. And
Dude,
I
his
really
trailer
enjoyed
was sick.
it was,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed Spawn too. Like even though that was probably the most slept on out of all of them, I just like the way he
Yeah.
looked while he was just like bashing somebody's face in.
Dude, like when he in the trailer when he comes in, he's like, I don't need weapons, and he's like just fucking like Hachi's just doing this shit. I'm like, oh, okay, we got a badass over here.
It was pretty sick. But I gotta say, going all in on Street Fighter was probably the randomest thing that happened this week.
It is. It so is though. Like I don't know. Like, dude, I don't know what it is, but it's like because the thing is, like, I probably have way more hours in Smash, right? But it's something about Street Fighter that it takes me to a different place in fighting games than any other fighting game could, and
Mhm.
It
it's
feels
like
very
it
pure.
goes. Yeah, it goes back to like the X's and O's of like fighting games to me, where it's like you have so many options to do things, and yet like you have a Ken. I've had so many mirror matches of Ken because Ken is a very popular character to play as, and I don't play like any of the other Kens at all. Like they'll do like this run up thing and like do a shoryu or they'll run up. You know what I did with the run up? I ran up and just grabbed. My favorite button is the grab button. So I think I'm like I'm leaking my strategy here a little bit, but like the grab button is the most utility I get out of any mechanic in the game. The grab button and like the mechanic where you can like knock them down slowly, and then
I feel
and then one more thing. Every time I do my super with Ken, the combat art, he does this little part where he like in the cutscene where he says, "Sit down and shut up." Every time that he does that, I yell it on stream, or even if I'm not streaming, I just yell it. Like it's just I don't know. I can't not play without saying it. Like it's just part of it.
You know, it's good when you're getting excited just talking about it. You know, so that's
Yeah,
awesome, bro.
absolutely.
I feel like if you can really master grab in most fighting games, it's so disruptive when you're playing against the other person because it's like the least sexiest way to play. But if you can really master it,
Yeah.
it's just so satisfying because it gives you a lot of control.
Yeah, I used to play Soul Calibur, and I was known as the guy who would duck and grab. Like that's what all I would do with Soul Calibur is
Dude, I
duck
would
and
hate to
grab.
play against you. I would hate to play against you, bro. I'd be like, this motherfucker is just spamming the same shit, bro. Like, get away from me, dude. No, I don't know, man. Me personally, I've been really fucking craving a good FPS. I feel like I haven't found that for me. Like, it's been an itch that I've been having for a while, and I really want. Hopefully, we get something soon here, whether it's Web3 or something new in Web2. I was really excited for X Defiant, but it seemed like they got hit with like a little delay, so I haven't kept up with them and see what's going on there. But that was going to be a good game, in my opinion, that was going to come out. But I really do want like some type of FPS to come into the Web3 scene. So I hope like Shrapnel comes soon, something, because I've been missing that genre a lot.
It's coming close to being quarter 4, so they said in quarter 4 that the holders will get the first experience on Shrapnel, and then Q1 to Q2 they're gonna have like a more open play test or play session for people, and I'm hoping at that point the holders have established like the meta, so to speak. But like once you open the floodgates to the public, that's where you're gonna be like seeing the Roblox effect, where you're gonna have all these different not servers, but like these different maps and these different modes and stuff. Because like there's going to be a lot of UGC in that game, right? So I can't wait to see that for Shrapnel, and that's honestly the game I'm looking forward to. Like Web3 or Web2, I'm not looking for anything like forward to anything in Web2 to be honest. Like I'm looking forward to Shrapnel. I'm wearing the hat right now, as you guys can see. Like, shout out to you guys. Thank you for sending me the merch. But I'm really excited to like play Shrapnel. Like, I got my hands on it at Consensus in April, and it was a little play test. You know, it was nice. They didn't have a crosshair, but you know, it was very early, and I knew it was very early when I was going to play it. But I'm really excited to see what that world brings to the table, not just for Web3, bro, for gaming in general, because
Yeah,
they've already talked about they want to bring this to console, right? So
yeah.
like they're thinking bigger than just Web3. They're thinking like just gaming in general.
No, I think when that comes out, I think it's going to shift where Shrapnel and Dead Drop are going to take the charge, at least for the FPS scene. And I know they're not like Dead Drop is not an FPS, but you get what I'm saying. Like in the shooter game scene, I think those two titles are going to definitely lead the way. Because Dead Drop has that event coming up now in Vegas where they're going to showcase Snapshot 6. So like they have a lot going on, and they have similar plans as what you were mentioning, how to with going on console and hitting other targeted audience, right? Like more of a Web2 traditional gamer audience. So I think that's going to be big, man. And I'm excited for it. I want to see those two games develop more and be more accessible. I do hope that there's some plan for Dead Drop to be more accessible to players, because I think that's one of the things that's missing for that game in particular is the user base, right? Like the amount of players playing the game, because it really does need it. It's not a game that you can play with only 10 people in a server, you know? So I think I'm interested to see how that's going to be an effect for Shrapnel as well, because I do know that they're also a little bit gated, but not as much as Dead Drop is. I do know that Shrapnel has plans for a free to play game that's more accessible. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see the comparison.
Yeah, they call it the light version. They've mentioned that on Twitter Spaces before. So they want to like do the same game with the same exact assets, but you don't have access to owning them at all.
Yeah.
So like that's the big difference. That's the way they described it.
Yeah. Which, again, like not a lot, maybe there's some players that don't care about the ownership aspect of it, right? The whole point is to have users to be able to play your game and have access to it, right? So I think as long as we have that and there's good content inside the game and there's good mechanics, like I said, man, it's one of the titles that I'm more excited about, that is upcoming. So hopefully it's a good experience.
And I think that's the future for Web3 games, is to have some kind of hybrid light version and native Web3 version, because I said this before this week on some Twitter spaces. You're kind of asking people to break a 20 to 30-year practice that they're familiar with, to then jump into like a new world where you have to own a wallet, or have a wallet and log in with your wallet and remember the private keys, and then that's
Hmm.
where all your stuff is stored and stuff, and that's how you log into the game in the first place, right? They're alleviating that with the light approach too, because I think they're gonna allow like people to log in with their emails. Like you can already do that on shrapnel.com. You can go use your email. So
And that should apply
um
to all Web3 games, or any games in general, right? Like
mhm.
I feel like games are in need of one, accessibility and education. If we're talking about Web3, right? If we're talking about the Web3 ecosystem, those are the two things that are like at the most important, right? Accessibility. You need games in Web3 need to have a way for players to play the game for free, or that is at really low cost, right? So either free or low cost, but there should be a way for players just to play the game and experience the game without the need of like purchasing a digital asset, right? And on the back end, there should be some type of blockchain integration. So some type of NFT or some type of blockchain tech, some type of ownership that those players get to access as well, right? And this leads into the whole topic of like whether it should live on the back end. Should we talk about it in the beginning? Should player discover in a natural way, right? Like that's what we mean by that. It's not about hiding the blockchain technology or ignoring it, right? It's allowing gamers to find it naturally. And if they want to participate in that form of the game, they're able to, right? And there should be education behind that. They should be able to learn how to do that effectively.
Now
But it
some
shouldn't be forced in your face as like, hey, the only way you can play our game is to do this, and that's the only way,
Yeah, it
because
sounds
then
like you're
that.
describing Creator League a little bit, like
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. We'll
yeah.
definitely get to that's definitely the big elephant in the room, right? Like this week at least, and we'll get to that. But it's just a model that we've seen in gaming, right? Like in Web3 gaming, people talk about it all the time. Do we have half and half saying like, yeah, we should like this should live in the back and players should find it out, and that gets taken as like you want to hide NFTs and you want to scam people, and it's not that. It's basically allowing a gamer to find that technology naturally inside the game, and if they want to participate in that, they have the option to do so. But for other players that just want to play games and they just want to like have fun while doing so, there's a part of the game that is also there for them, and that's how you bring the two ecosystems together and make it sustainable. Because then if you just make it about the NFT and you have to say, hey, this is the only way to play the game, is this if you purchase this NFT or if you have this access with your wallet or whatever, then you're making your game to a very specific targeted audience that's very small at the current moment.
It reminds me a lot of arcade. When you think about
Hmm.
the fact that the arcade industry existed and then console gaming happened, the games,
Hmm.
certain games were still available in arcades, right? Like the first FPS I ever played was Time Crisis, and
Ooh.
I'm
I mean,
not
Street Fighter, right?
yeah, I'm not that old. Like I'm 29, but the first FPS I ever played was, it was it was Time Crisis, and when I saw Call of Duty, I was like, this feels like a fake ass Time Crisis. Uh, that was my first, because I thought it was so much more satisfying to play Time Crisis because I'm actually wielding the gun in my hand. Like I need to be quick with, hitting the pedal, making sure that I'm reloading and all that. So when I saw Call of Duty, I was just like, it feels kind of mid. But then I ended up loving Call of Duty, right? Uh, so I see this being the next iteration of that, like the way that arcade games translated to console and like PC games. It's like now this is just a different version of it, where there was a lot of people in that were hardcore into like Street Fighter and Time Crisis and going to the arcade and having their friends there. There was a lot of pushback in the early console industry where they were like, this is going to ruin the social aspects of people going out and having fun together. It
Yeah.
wasn't always rosy for that industry. So over time, it was just normalized and people got used to it. I think doing something where you're very transparent about the fact that you have a blockchain aspect to your game is important. And the way that Shrapnel is branding it with a light version is in like people are used to seeing the words light and pro. So maybe, the part that has the blockchain side of things can be like the pro version and just be very transparent. Like there are NFTs here. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be hidden, but it needs to have the option to opt out or opt in. And obviously,
Yeah.
I'm opting in. Like I'm not playing Web3 games to play Web2 games. I'm opting all the way in. But it's a
Yeah.
lot easier to explain things to people with terms like light and pro. Like pro version has NFTs, light version doesn't. Oh, okay, cool. Well,
Yeah,
NFTs are a scam,
absolutely.
so I'm playing light. Like people would think that, right? Until all of a sudden they see all the pro players doing a bunch of cool stuff that they can't do, and now they want the pro version. Like it's how you sell it.
Yeah. No,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And you said that right? Like it's allowing the players, like all three of us right here, for example, we are in the web3 world, right? Like we've all done trading, we've all done some type of like cryptocurrency, or we're involved in this world, right? So we want to experience that side of the game, right? We want to be all immersed into the NFTs or whatever the blockchain tech that's in that game, right? So but for other players, maybe not, right? And they need to have that option to still be able to play the game without that. So I think you hit it right on the nail, Messi, is having that availability of and accessibility to both worlds.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, the best thing that's come out of this space is honestly the opportunity of memes. Like, what I mean by that is, uh, people can't really relate to this stuff, but think about how we related to Nintendo with Sony back in the day
Hmm.
versus Nintendo, right? They memified the entire competition or existence. They memified everything, and
Hmm.
people didn't really know in real time this was a meme, but it definitely was a meme, right? And the only way we go forward is through time because of like we've been saying, it's like really early, and I think the way forward is through memes because memes do control the internet, and it's going to be a way to be a way to reference time, but it's
Hmm.
also going to be a way to teach people like how NFTs are going to be utilized in games, for instance. Like we keep going back to the CS:GO example. You can't take your money off of the Steam client once you make a sale, right? There's a benefit right there. And you know what? Someone brought this to my attention. Johnny Boy G, shout out Johnny Boy G. He said, "Why not do like the hit campaigns where they say like this is like how there's Drake where he's like that and then he's like this, yeah. Why not do that with the campaigns like that to inform people like, oh, I don't want my funds locked. Let me get my funds out of here, kind of thing. Things like that is what people got to start doing to start changing the culture around this stuff. And that brings me to my next point. Really quick to touch on Creator League. They weren't transparent from the start. They were being kind of like misleading. They wanted to get a grant from the Near Protocol by showing network activity in a nefarious way without letting the creators know. And instead of letting the creators know, hey, we're using blockchain tech to authenticate logins, to give them voting rights and all that stuff, they didn't let their creators know about that stuff. All they did was kind of hide it in the background, like people want blockchain in the background, right? They hid it in the background, but they weren't transparent and upfront that this was blockchain tech because they know there's a stigma behind it, and that stigma is NFT equals scam. And if you want people to change their perspective on that, the way you freaking solve that is by telling people, "Hey, we're using blockchain tech for XYZ reason." And when you lay out XYZ reason, if they still don't want to do it, then tell them goodbye. If they don't fuck with it, bye bye. We'll find someone else. But they didn't do that. They targeted people's audiences that they know have big audiences and just slapped their name with a bunch of NFT stuff. And the other thing too is like I even went out and commented and say, "Oh, OTK is doing NFTs. That's cool." Like I never saw that coming, right? And then everyone was like, "Don't say that word. Don't say the N word, right? Like we don't use that word. We use community pass." I'm like, bro, like it's an NFT at the end of it. Like you could look at the video. It was very easy to spot that's an NFT just by the video alone. The spinning pass, like I've seen that before on OpenSea before. So like what they did wrong was not be transparent, and educate people on why we're using near protocol or near blockchain. And then there's like another elephant in that room too, where eFuse is kind of a nefarious company and they've done bad things in the past. And they were just basically kind of fraud. Like this might be a case of fraud here too, by the way, guys. They were frauding this near protocol for some funds, and those they give out grants. That's like life or death to some of these projects out here. So just to give y'all some context, that was what's going on. And yeah, I mean, if we want this space to change for the better, we have to focus on the culture and education. And you, who controls it? Memes controls the internet. Shout out Elon Musk, right? And the other thing too is education is key. And then the last thing, time. This stuff takes time to like become common practice and like household names and stuff. Even with all the ads we see on Coinbase and or for TV and stuff. But yeah,
I can agree with the take on memes because
Yeah.
a lot of my initial early experiences in Web3 came from meme culture, right? In late 2020, I was really interested in Doge. It hadn't quite blown up yet, but that was actually the first crypto I ever purchased, and it's because I understood it. Like I understand memes, I understand, dumb, funny shit. And maybe if the game industry didn't take itself so seriously, I would actually be able to we would actually create memes and we would make a joke out of ourselves. And I honestly think if Creator League had maybe taken more of a meme approach behind it rather than trying to make it into such a epic thing, it probably would have been a lot more entertaining. People would have understood it more. I know that it technically wasn't tradable. It was a
Mm-hmm.
soulbound token, SBT, but it was still an NFT at the end of the day. And, trying to show that you can create so much network volume to get a grant without telling the people that are going to be in the event your intentions behind that is really wrong. And I can completely understand all the backlash that came from it because it was handled very poorly.
Yeah, the transparency behind it is a big thing, right? Because to me, it was also an issue of like targeted audience here. Like, if you're gonna use terms like blockchain tech or like NFTs behind that creator pass or whatever you want to call it, right? Even if it's a soulbound NFT, if you're going to do that, then the creators that you're bringing on to partner with you, you should have done a better job at making sure that those creators have knowledge behind that world. Like aside from Bryson, none of the creators that they had in there really like practice blockchain tech, or live in that world. So when that happens and then they find out behind their backs, right? I still don't know the full details on that, or what people knew or what they didn't know when they were presented with this, right? But when that happens, then you have the situation that happened with Sea Dog and other creators, right? Like the creator from OTK, where they back out of the deal, and that screws everything up as far as like the trajectory for this whole thing, right? Because that's a lot of planning to do certain like commitment from people that they had already, that they now had to like figure it out, had to deliver the incentives behind it, all that type of stuff, right? So it just got really messy because they weren't transparent enough with their approach that they were taking.
but it goes even further than that. There's another problem too. They scheduled the events at 12 p.m. noon. And if they're targeting the kids, right? Because they are going after kids for this, by the way. How are kids gonna play this if they're at school? So like this is like a chance to play with your favorite creator, right? Oh, I love Mr. Beast. I can't wait to play noon. I can't play at noon. I'm at school, right? Like they weren't even thinking about that. They weren't even thinking that far ahead. Like the actual event itself was at a bad time. So like there were so many factors here as to why this like crumbled and burned instantly.
The one thing that I want to give them props is that they are offering the chance to like, or not the chance, the option for people to get their refund back. And I do feel like the purchasing part of it was pretty easy, and pretty like convenient to do, right? You just log in with your email, use your Visa card or your credit card, and then you purchase the thing, right? Like there was no wallet integration and any of that stuff, which I think makes like the refunding part a lot easier. So I think it's great that they're doing that. But yeah, man, I think this thing could have been planned a lot better, and it could have been targeted a lot better. And if they would have been transparent from the very start as to what their approach was, and maybe we would have seen a different outcome from this. It does really suck to see an idea like this with the personalities that they had behind it basically crash within the first 3 days of being announced. You get me? Like, that's crazy. um but yeah, man, I think again, if they would have done, I almost feel like they shouldn't have even gone with the NFT route at all. If that was the plan from the start, if it was going to be a soulbound NFT that people couldn't like resell or anything or trade, like just do like a battle pass approach type of thing, and just make it like an actual like community pass or something like that. Like, I don't know. It got really messy in my opinion.
The only reason why they use the NFT is to get fake data to make a marketplace to sell that data. That's the only reason why they did it. People that they've either worked with eFuse or worked with eFuse, they they whistle blew the crap out of this past week. They came in and talked on a Twitter space and gave all the intel we needed to know, all the context we needed to know, about how this company has been nefarious in the past. Like, they even said a simple Google search would have shown that these people shouldn't have been like collaborated with. People like Mr. Beast, OTK, whatever, they should have never worked with this company because of the bad things they've done with kids in the past, right? So like, I'm not throwing shade. Like, I'm just reporting what I heard, and
No,
yeah,
I'm
it's
actually
just
glad that you're bringing this up because I haven't heard people talk about that portion of it. Like, I feel like a lot of people that I saw like on the early Twitter Spaces and stuff was more focused around the drama behind all of this, and like
they
who
were.
was who was supporting like a malicious thing and who wasn't, and blah blah blah, and nobody was really talking about the facts or like what was going on behind the scene that was the real crime, or like that was the real effect from all of this. The drama to me was kind of dumb. At the end of the day, it's a risk factor thing. You bought a pass that was $20. The tangible items alone that you were going to receive from the pass were going to be worth more money than that. So there was no wallet integration. There was no difficult part about any of this. Like, so I feel like a lot of the focus on this thing was a lot of drama shit. And that to me, it just made a lot of people in the Web3 community seem like they flip flop from their takes all their time. And I don't know. I just thought it was a very dramatic thing that didn't have any purpose. But what you're talking about, that sounds interesting. And that's what I feel like people haven't even like realized or talk about because they're so focused on the drama behind it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
when
I
they
would like
dropped
to hear
that,
more about that.
I would too. And the thing that sucks is when these people came up to talk, instead of digging more, they kind of just like, oh, there's no drama here. Man. We're gonna go back to other topics. Let's go to the angel investor of the week. No, bro. Like, there's a huge story here. Like, this has the potential to go down as like a fraud case, like, for real.
And so when you do the Google search, like what comes up as far as eFuse's past?
I actually haven't done it myself personally, but
Okay.
uh to my understanding, they have done nefarious things to mislead children into buying products, and that's just what I've heard. So like, I haven't actually done the search myself. Um, Something about the founder was like just not a nice person. And this is coming from a mother, so like, mothers are very strong when it comes to like, protecting their children. That's what they should do. So I kind of take her word for it, but like, I haven't done personal research on like the specifics. But yeah.
I mean, I feel like predatory activity like that, where games target like joint audiences to spend on games and like buy items in games, have always been a thing in like traditional gaming. Like, I believe like even Fortnite went through a stage where kids were like buying shit with their parents' credit card, because it was like targeted in a way that made them want to own those things, right? So, I almost feel like almost every game that has like a battle pass or something like that behind it can go through that as well, like where they target young audiences to like spend more in game than they should.
Yeah, because they're very involved with like college esports, and they like, I just looked it up. They work with college esports teams and recruit from high school. So they have some kind of like inner working with, like, what is the age range, 14 to 21, 24, whatever it is from high school or college. So they have some inner workings there, and then there's some history, and yeah, there's the founder has been found to be not the best person. So
I mean, listen, man, I think moving forward, this whole thing is going to die out. At least at Creator League, it's already doing like a rebranding situation. So I'm sure they're gonna figure out some way to like maneuver around it and try to like make it a thing so that all the funds that involved doesn't go to waste. But I think this whole thing is gonna die out eventually. Most likely all the influencers that they have behind there are going to back out of this thing because they don't want their brand associated with a scam or any of that situation. And what I would like to see from our space, and I'm talking about web3, the web3 space specifically, if we are going to do more spaces on these things or more conversations on it, I would like to see more focus on eFuse rather than the Creator League thing, and really see what's going on there and like what they have going on as a company, in the back end, because that to me sounds more interesting than this whole thing that happened.
yeah,
But
at the time of this recording, they have already started the rebrand, which is part and parcel for every Web3 endeavor. You got to rebrand at some point. But they've also removed all of the creators from their bio, but they still have the video up with all the creators and all the entities and stuff, which I don't understand, because if you're not going to do this, then why keep the video up? Just take it down and start over. But that's just my 2 cents.
yeah, I'm sure that has a whole process, man. It's gonna be a slow process probably, but we'll see where it goes in the upcoming weeks and what they do. And if not,
Also,
they'll probably just disappear and it'll die out, like I'm saying.
also something no one really spoke about. I mean, I saw it a few times, but they laid off like what 30% of their staff or
Oh yeah,
something
they
like
did.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can
Once
give you
this
some
blew up,
context on that
That
as
was
well.
that was eFuse, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
so this company
Yeah.
has actually been in the net red for some time now. This was like a last hurrah or ditched effort, which is why they were going for those funds in the first place. That would have helped them tremendously. Since that backlash happened instantly and they kind of had to refund everybody because they found out there was NFTs in it, they then had to do the refunds, and then they let people go um, as a result of this. But they were already in the red before that, so it's
Yeah.
not truly cause and effect, but it is in a way, because that was the last cause that affected it. So, but they were in the red for quite some time.
It's interesting because it seems like they were reaching out to a lot of creators, but not again, not a lot of creators involved in the crypto space. I think the only one I saw personally was Bryson. But I was watching a video of Courage the other day, and he was talking to Cypher, and he was saying that he was approached by Creator League, but he turned it down. But even in that conversation, he said that he doesn't remember them mentioning any NFTs or any blockchain involved. So again, man, I think there's a lot of details missing. I would like to see more official statements coming from eFuse about this stuff, especially about the staff being laid off, and like what led to that. Obviously, it's probably something due to funding. But again, like man, those staff members didn't deserve that. They had no causing any of that. So it'll be interesting to see
my
how this moves forward, man.
my perspective on the thing is, I feel it was very half-assed on both sides. And by that I mean they didn't dedicate to either side on eFuse's end. They didn't dedicate to whether this was going to be a regular gaming thing, and they didn't dedicate to even, in my opinion, the blockchain side of things. Because the whole point of blockchain is to allow for transparency. That is one of the biggest reasons that we're all in this industry. It's an open ledger where we can see transactions, and so
Yeah,
and where companies like to build in public and communicate with their audience. So what upset me personally was how they misrepresented what the ethics of our space is about. At least on the gaming side, a lot of us ask for transparency. A lot of us ask for the culture to be treated with integrity. And in my opinion, they violated what the integrity of, Web3, blockchain, gaming, whatever you may want to call it, actually stands for. I do think that they could have committed harder on the blockchain side of things. Let's be transparent and open with the community. And the fact that the NFT pass wasn't tradable, to me, was actually a huge loss. I thought that to see how something could become speculative in the same way that ticket sales for your favorite celebrity become speculative. It's not anything nefarious for people to sell, the weekend tickets on Ticketmaster. So why should it be a big deal if you want a game with, your favorite content creator?
Yeah, they should have done
Um,
a limited amount of passes and then
absolutely.
allowed that to be a rarity thing.
I think if they were very, very transparent about the blockchain side of things, they most likely would not have gotten people like OTK involved or anything like that. But that would have opened room for Web3, gamers or personalities, and it would have probably ended up becoming more of a hybrid approach as far as who was actually going to be a part of this. And I do want to shout out Bryson for basically, taking all the smoke for our industry, because he was in the trenches in those comment sections trying to explain blockchain technology to the people that were upset about the fact that there were NFTs involved. And I do feel that there was a certain amount of envy from other creators in our space that he was the only one involved.
Yeah,
And I do feel like, even in a weird way, some of these people were happy it blew up because they weren't involved.
yeah,
Which I thought was absolutely wrong. If there's one of us in there, at least there's one of us, and that person kind of stands for all of us. And it was very sad to see not everyone really rallied behind that and supported him. Right? I saw the guy's socials. He was getting attacked on both ends. He was getting attacked from Web3 people, and he was getting attacked from Web2 people.
yeah.
So I don't think he got enough credit for being involved in that. And I don't know exactly how involved he was. I've heard around the space that he was actually like the commissioner for it, but I haven't personally confirmed that myself. That's just in like regular conversation. It's been brought to me that he was the commissioner for it.
No, I definitely
So
want
I
to give him
mean,
some flowers as well, bro,
I,
because
I,
he never changed his perspective on that, you know. So
uh, and he took it. In my opinion, he took it like a champ. He did his best to explain it ethically and with respect, and he didn't make any quick decisions to start talking shit to any of the other content creators involved or even the blockchain people. He kind of just stood there and advocated for what he believed in, and unfortunately this didn't work out, because it would have ultimately, it would have been a really good moment for our space if things had been
mhm.
handled appropriately. So I mean, it's just, I don't think it sets our space back. A lot of people do think it sets our space back. I don't think it does, because you guys forget, like, people have really short-term memory now. Um, I think it'll be forgotten about in like 2 weeks. And if we have another moment where we can do it right, then I think, everything's a stepping stone at this point. I actually thought this was a very big learning experience for all of us in our industry, where we now have confirmed hiding blockchain assets is not the way. People are going to find out anyways. So like you guys say, education, it it has to be done in a way that's entertaining, though. If we're
Memes.
just kind of, yeah, exactly, like what Hado's saying, like, if we're just gonna sit here and act like we're picking up a textbook and trying to educate people, no one cares. We do have to take a more memeified approach. We're gamers at the end of the day. Like, we invented fun. I don't know why it's so hard for the Web3 gaming space to understand that in a way. Like memes, you know, being silly, being funny, being stupid. Like, that's what we do best. So just educate that way.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. And when it comes to memes, like Web3 already has that culture, you know, so why not utilize it to do something meaningful with it, like educating people about it, you know? So I like that take on it 100%.
There's gonna be plenty of memes on this one. I'll tell you that much.
Most likely we'll see. But hey, man, let's move forward. Let's talk about some games because there's been a lot of noise with this one coming up. I think this game is probably the talk of like all of gaming and Web3 recently. And I'm talking about Parallel, man. And it's pretty cool to see because for a TCG game to have so much traction and so many people wanting to play it is something that I personally haven't seen in Web3, and it's kind of refreshing to see. But what do you guys think, man? What are you guys thinking about Parallel? I know we have a lot of guild members in Catalyst that have been super excited and grinding it out. So, what about you guys?
Yeah, I think like Parallel is like, to me it looks like StarCraft when it comes to these like not trailers, like cutscenes or whatever. But I would like the aspect of them doing some kind of AR kind of thing. That seems kind of cool and unique. I haven't really seen that in Web3. I think there's like another game in this space that is like a VR game, but they're very rare. Like when it comes to VR games, VR games are kind of rare in general, right? But like to have that in the Web3 space, like that's even kind of cooler. I haven't actually played the game yet because I've just been so freaking busy with Street Fighter and other games. But I have access. So we also I think it was me, Money, Atis. I think Mizzy was on that thread as well. We all talked about like playing together. So like we're planning to play together because
Yeah, I was in
somebody's
there.
like yeah, someone's like the proctor, like the prodigy, right? And they want to bestow their wisdom to us. So they're gonna smoke us in the game until one of us gets the hang of
Yeah,
it, and then we're gonna
that's
smoke them.
Money.
Yeah,
Money
yeah,
Money was
Yeah,
one of the
Money's been
top
going.
100 players for a while.
Yeah,
He's
that's
really
yeah.
crazy.
good.
Money's been going super hard on Parallel.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm interested to check it out. The art doesn't look that appealing. I'll be honest, but it is early. Maybe they do some kind of rebranding or something. He wants to rebrand. So, but it looks like it's a traditional trading card game, and it's not really my favorite genre, but it is something that I could play on the go if it is. Is it on mobile?
I think they're planning to go mobile because they have the whole AR like look to it too, like the version that is AR.
Yeah,
So we'll take a look at that in just a second as well. We'll pull it up so you guys can see.
they
But yeah, they do plan on going mobile, I believe.
Yeah,
they
well,
are
like
going
I
mobile.
like playing. I like playing those games on mobile mostly. Like waiting for something to be finished in public, or like maybe uh, I'm gonna be stuck in traffic somewhere. I can pull out the game real quick. I don't know, something that like that I can do on the go. Or maybe I'm on the poop machine. I don't know, but like trading card games like on my desktop, I really don't play them too much. Unless there's like a event or theme behind it. But like I usually take these games on the go, and that's really where I consume those kind of games. So I can see myself playing it more when it comes to mobile than PC.
No, me personally, I'm a huge TCG fan, so I enjoy TCG games a lot. And one of the things you said, Hado, which was character design or like the way the cards look, right? That when I played Parallel, the first time I played it, that was one of the things that kind of like missed for me, is that I didn't feel like the cards were like that. Like they didn't pull me in, right? Like I didn't feel like a sense of like, whoa, I have this card, this shit looks cool, like this shit looks cool, like I want to have this on my deck or whatever. I didn't feel that from the character designs, but one of the things that I found out from Money actually is that they did do a much better job at the character designs for cars in the second season, or like the second packs are releasing. Um, and he showed me some examples and they look really cool. It looks like they're kind of like honing in on like what their theme for the game is, and it's more customizable, so like the cars have more of like a custom feel, like a one-on-one versus like just like a generic thing. But I feel like for them it's a little bit difficult because they went with like a futuristic like look for their lore, right? So that makes it a little bit tougher when it comes to like character design and card design, because for like games like Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic the Gathering, right, like those games are very like mythical, and they're based on adventure and like mythical characters, so you have a lot more to play with colors and like just character design in general, right? So it'll be interesting to see what Parallel does with that, but I do think that was something that was lacking when I played the game, at least, is that I didn't feel like there was anything that really wowed me when it came to like the designs of the card.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you guys. I I think they're what, in alpha or beta?
I believe they're in beta.
Yeah, they're in
I
beta,
want to
right?
say, yeah.
So ultimately, character design, card design is pretty much done most of the time when you get there. It was a little underwhelming for me, but when you I just think it was more about how it's almost presented on the field. It's kind of hard to see certain details with the lighting and all that kind of stuff. So it just might not hit. When you look at the actual art on the cards by itself, if it was something that was put on a poster, it would actually be pretty appealing
Yeah.
if you're into like sci-fi. I just do think, like Cloud said, because it's sci-fi, and then the field of play tends to be darker, grittier. It's very difficult to see and appreciate. Um, I personally don't really like mana based card games, so
Yeah.
it's very difficult for me to really get into. I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh maxi when it comes to TCGs, and that's more like sacrificial based and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So it's I never, as far as like the game itself, it's very competitive. It's very they definitely thought out how to make a TCG feel super competitive and intriguing, and I will give them a lot of credit for that. I For me personally, I cannot get into a proper flow of the game because of the mana system and the fact that it's also uber competitive. I've never really quite found that groove where a lot of the times I end up having to sacrifice cards that I would have preferred to keep for later on in the battle to keep my mana going up. Um, so I'm not the brightest person when it comes to like the current metas or anything like that, because I am really trying to give myself the kind of experience that a normie would have, where they don't necessarily know everything about the game, so I can give like regular person feedback. Because our guild is so awesome in the sense that everyone is already figuring out the game. They know the metas. Money Plane knows a lot. Yicon knows a lot. Addis, who we're about to play his trailer, he knows a ton already because
Yeah.
he's been speaking to the top number one player in Parallel to learn from him. And that player is, I think running like an Ogden core deck, which isn't even one of the meta decks right now. And he found a way to create a deck that is right now just dominating the leaderboards. So it's still very early where people are, creating different types of decks that other people haven't thought of. And I think from a trading perspective, it's actually making things very interesting where the volume on the NFT side of things is actually quite high, and a lot of people are trading things around to try out different setups. And obviously, the gameplay is always going to be the focus, but
Mm-hmm.
in this case, I actually really like the fact that the gameplay is what's creating the volume on the NFT market, because people are trying to collect the cards that they think might end up working best,
Yeah.
and trying out different builds. So that is very intriguing to me. And there's already like a DAO being built to start like giving cards to players for free if they're like good enough. So that's really interesting as well. They're called Paragon DAO.
That's pretty cool.
So from like I guess from the economic side of the game, the intriguing gameplay and the competitiveness, in my opinion, is what's really leading it to be a high volume NFT collection. I personally I can't stand the mana system in any TCG, so I
Yeah.
haven't been able to play it as much as I would like to.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
a question. Since you're like kind of like giving us a lot of intel on this, how are they handling balancing cards? Like if a card's too overpowered or whatever, is there some like
I
sort
mean,
of governance system?
I don't think there is yet. I'm not 100% sure. I do know that they have been actively doing patches. I think they've done like two in the last month already. I would like to think that they're probably going to implement some sort of governance at some point for this type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I know I've heard that mentioned in a Twitter space. I just don't know if it's active yet.
The reason why I asked that is because that's the kind of the one fear I have with Web3 card games is because there's value associated with the cards. Let's say you're running this awesome deck and you have this card that's really cool and it's worth a lot of money, and then they just nerf the card, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're like the value goes down not only in game but like also like monetarily speaking as well, and that's the cause for, or that's the concern I have with Web3 card games. Is like if it's not a governance or voting rights system of some sort that the users can vote on and have some kind of effective way to demonetize the card in a way.
Yeah.
um it kind of ruins the player experience, and then you lose the value of that card. So I'm like wondering, are they going to have some kind of fix for
I
that? Because
I kind of agree with your take there, Hado. I do think that's important. And if they're not gonna have that, I do think the game needs to build some type of like collectible like demand, right? For example, like in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's a ban list, right? And they've banned so many different cars throughout the years, right? And some of these cars were legendary cars, that people really love having in their decks and playing them, but they retain their value from a collectible standpoint, right? Like Blackluster Soldier, for example, is the most expensive Yu-Gi-Oh card that was ever sold, right? I think the first edition copy sold for like 1 million point something or something like that, right? That was a card that was banned, and it's still banned, I'm pretty sure. So the fact that it remained that popular and it retained its value, it was due to the culture that Yu-Gi-Oh had over the years, and people seeing that card come in the show and building a bond with that card and that character, right? And wanting to collect it because it's a rare card. So I think for games that are not going to have a governance system, like you're saying, they needs to have some type of collectible demand for people to still want those cards even though they're not playable.
So I did some quick research while you guys were talking, and they do have a governance system. I don't know,
Oh, okay.
and they do plan on. I think they are planning on implementing it. I'm not 100% sure if that is currently what's controlling like what gets nerfed and what doesn't. I do know there was a recent nerf on some of the cards that caused their prices to just plummet.
Mm,
So that is a part of like the active market, but that's also something that's I guess normal in TCGs, right? They do reprints all the time in Yu-Gi-Oh that affects the
yeah,
prices of
absolutely.
cards and things of that nature. So I think to have that element, it's kind of inevitable. Um, if they haven't already made it that it's the community that has the primary say as far as like changing the the cards
Meta.
around to nerf them or buff them, I'm sure they will add it in. They seem like from what I've seen, they seem very open to community feedback and decentralization in that way.
Well, I
Um,
would I would also drop in some feedback real quick, and I'm not, like, again, this is me from the outside glass looking in, right? But like another way they could do something with balancing, let's say like a card is too powered, overpowered, and a player is using it, you could issue bounties for that player, and if you beat the player, you get some kind of special reward for that, which is something that's in game that has some value as well, you
Mm,
know, and that could like further like negate the use of the card, because then that person's like, well, I don't want to be targeted forever, let me take this out of my deck, right? Which would still lower the value of the card, but it would be some kind of like creative way to create more value, make more people users active daily, and it would kind of like force the player that had that card to make a decision, like, do I need to play this card? Like, maybe I play this card anyways and I beat everybody, or because I'm sure they don't want people getting rewards based off of their own likeness or bounty, but maybe there's something in there that like works out to, because we have bounties in video games already, right? But there's no like actual reward behind it, like monetarily speaking. You just like get to kill the player in game, and it's like cool, it could happen. Well, like, what if there was like some kind of like NFT card you get, or something, some kind of reward that you get for doing it? That's what I'm
we
saying.
actually we're our guild is actually I'm not going to name them yet because we haven't officially announced it, but we're actually partnered with a platform that does exactly that, where you can put out bounties and games can work with them to find unique ways to balance their ecosystem that way. And even it might not even just be the game; it could be the community that does it themselves. So that'll
Yeah.
be really cool.
yeah. And one thing, you know what? One thing we got to talk about with Parallel is that it's more than just a TCG games, right? The team does have plans to implement other blockchain implementations into the game that's going to make it, in my opinion, a lot better. But we'll talk about that in just a second. Before we move forward, I do want to showcase this awesome trailer that one of our guild members, Addis, did for Parallel. I think he does a fabulous jobs with this trailers at showcasing like what the games are all about. And it came from one of his tweets where he says that this trading card game has over 150,000 game plays in the first month. That's freaking absolutely insane. And one of the things I want to give flowers to Parallel is the amount of activity that they've been able to retain throughout this release, right? because like I said, almost everyone in Web3 is playing this game. So let's watch this
And
trailer real quick.
before you hit the trailer, something I actually did want to add, to your point where you were talking about the collectability behind certain cards.
Yeah,
It's actually been very interesting to see certain players start to become attached to certain, deck styles and certain characters in their deck. It is
yeah,
something that has happened. I'm not 100% sure on exactly which deck it is, but Yaikon is like, I think it's a Shroud deck, and he's
yeah.
like a Shroud maxi, and that's the only deck he wants to play. And
Khaleesi or something like that. The names are kind of
um,
weird to say, but I think one of them that's very popular is Khaleesi or something
it's
like that,
it's called
where a lot of
Thari.
people.
Money
Oh,
money
there you
loves
go.
to call Thari. Yeah, he so it's really been interesting to see how people are starting to become attached to their playing styles and the decks
Yeah.
that they like. And that is something I really didn't expect when I first started playing Parallel to see take shape. I personally haven't found that deck for myself yet. But I'm really happy to see other people starting to do that.
Let's watch this trailer from Addis real quick, guys. I really do want to see this because he does a great job with the trailers, like I said.
Let's go.
It's like you're watching a movie.
I
Yeah.
was telling him this felt like some Marvel shit. Like it
Yeah,
felt
dude,
super
he does such a
official.
great job at it, man.
In a world. Is he naked?
Oh, the guy on the avatar on the left,
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
shirtless.
he's shirtless. Yeah, he's some type of alien or something.
He's
Dude,
got that Sephiroth
the
look.
way Addis does his trailers is amazing, man. Props to him. Definitely go give him a follow, guys. Um, and check out his content because he really does put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, man. Addis is a
No,
fucking
but
G.
listen, guys, one of the things that I actually just saw in that trailer is the way the game looks, right? Like the layout and the fact that they put like the regular TCG where you see the cars coming on the screens and that's all you see is something that I thought I was like, damn, I wish I would have done some type of like AR effect that comes up or like that the card comes out of the, like the actually pops up in 3D form and stuff like that. And to my surprise, they actually do have that as an option. And I think that makes the game look a lot better, in my opinion. Like just like the play style, the gameplay itself, I think it makes it a lot more entertaining. But as I bring this up, what do you guys think about that integration of having AR? Do you think that's going to be huge for when they go on mobile? Do you think it's going to make it more fun to like for people to do like PvP because both of them can put it on like a table or something and they can see their cars coming to life?
I can see a very real world usability utility from that. We've already seen that with like Pokemon Go and other, like I think there was a Harry Potter game that had some AR to it. So I can definitely see that happening. Like AR is on the rise, and another thing too I want to mention. I wonder if they're going to make their way over to the Quest Pro or that realm as well, because that's a huge AR machine right now that
Yeah,
has a lot of applications that use AR.
I
that'll
think
be.
it's genius from a marketing perspective. Uh,
What do you mean?
I think it makes this game so much easier to sell to the everyday gamer if it has AR in it.
Mm,
Because now it doesn't feel like a scam, right? It feels like the future of technology. And it's in line with what their sci-fi theme is about, right? If you're gonna make a sci-fi theme and themed game, it has to feel sci-fi all the way. So the fact that they're actually including AR makes me very excited for the future of this game because of the fact that people are going to be able to market it to their friends better and create content around it better. And the UGC, as far as the everyday person just posting this to TikTok, if they're really into the game, will be very unique, I think, and it'll be very forward facing as far as making a really good example of what can actually happen in our space. So I'm very happy that they're bringing AR tech into it.
And
yeah.
the Apple Vision Pro is coming out too. So if they find a way to get on that machine too, that's another added bonus of like using AR on a device that You know, like I don't think that it's a gaming device per se, but I'm sure there's going to be little games on it like that. I could see a world where Parallel fits into that meta. Not, I shouldn't say
Yeah.
meta, the enemy, but like it kind of fits into it, like because that whole Vision Pro is about AR and VR like coming together and working, and this is like another application they could add on there.
So where do you guys think they are as far as like developing this integration, right? Because I do see this tweet from Carlos here that he's saying it's an early mobile AR test, right, for Parallel. Do you guys think they're close to having this fully developed and integrated, or do you think they're going to save this for when they release on mobile?
I think that's going to be a mobile release, but um, I I could see it happen like with the Quest Pro and again like it depends on how open source these things are. I'm not too sure on how open they are to develop on. I know they have SDK kits and stuff to develop on, and I know that that the Oculus, at least the first time around, oh sorry, it's a Quest now. They were very open for like people to build on it. Um, and it seems that Meta is like allowing people to build. So I can see this happening, you know, at some point on VR and mobile. And like Mizzy was saying, I think it's going to be easier to sell the game that way. Until it comes out in its state, I think it's going to stay in our little echo chamber for a little bit longer. But once it leaves that, I think they have to bring more visual fidelity and bring it more to life. And I see they had like a little laser and stuff. That's cool. More effects like that to bring
Yeah.
your immersion is going to allow this product to sell better.
Yeah, I think it gives a lot more of an experience to the cars that you're playing, right? Like if I play some type of like battleship looking car, right? Like I want to see what it does, right? I want to see what the attack looks like. I want to see what exactly does this ship do. And like the fact that now you can see it with AR, maybe it comes in the air and shoots like a beam at the field, the opponent's field, and like it does some damage or some explosions and stuff like that. That's what makes TCG entertaining.
But what can you imagine like actually seeing the ship and like looking at every fucking angle of it and
Right,
like
yeah.
expecting the detail and shit? That's where my mind goes. Like
With
like
yeah.
that's with AR. Like you can like literally walk up and look at every single detail and part. And like wow, there's like windows and all this like all this stuff that they put in attention to detail. I can visually see that where I look. That's what AR brings to the table.
Yeah,
And
that
I
that would be dope,
honestly,
honestly.
honestly think that's where the real collectability perspective will come in, because at that point it's almost
Mm.
like having an AR museum, right? Depending on what
Hmm.
card you have, you
Ooh.
can you can walk around and show your friends and be like, "Yo, like this is this piece that I collected from this game." You might at that point you might not even be that into the game. You might just want to be able to flex the fact that you have this, in
It's
your
almost
eyes,
like
like
a
an artifact.
metaverse inside the game
Yeah,
itself. Because like that's the whole
exactly.
point of a metaverse, right? People wanted to show
Yeah.
their digital collectibles in one place.
Like for me, my brain instantly goes to fashion content, because I worked in it for not so long, but long enough that I like to think of things from a content creation perspective for fashion. And if someone had a very sci-fi fit, I could really see them creating a viral fit pick if they were to have like a parallel card become a part of their fit, and they were to have it like glowing out of their phone, and it matches the clothes that they're wearing. Like that would even go viral in the fashion industry, and that might even be something where fashion kids are like, what kind of game is that? And that's kind of a reach, but I'm just saying the potential that AR brings to the table.
Yeah. No, that's huge, man. That's a great way to like think about it, honestly. I think that didn't even cross my mind, honestly, but that's pretty cool. And other than that, man, like I think the game is also focusing on a lot of integrations with blockchain that I think are gonna be pretty cool. I was reading into the fact that they're trying to develop a I want to say I don't think it's a secondary game, or like I think it's still part of the game, but just like a different world of it, right? Like a different version of it, which is called Parallel Colony, and that's being built in Unreal Engine 5. And from my understanding of it, it's basically going to be like your own um like hub, almost like your own little town where you can start mining some of the S prime token that they have in their ecosystem, right? and they haven't released many details on this thing other than a trailer for it. And they're still testing things and developing, so they're themselves, the team themselves, are not too sure exactly how this experience is going to play out into the ecosystem. But I do like the fact that they're trying to make it a multiplayer experience, right, where you're going to be able to see other colonies around you in the same world. And who knows what that leads to, right? Whether there's going to be some PvP aspect, maybe some faction aspect, right, where you can attack other colonies in the vicinity to steal their resources or whatever they're mining. So it'll be pretty interesting to see that world and how it ties to the current game.
Will it be them dueling with cards to fight for those things, or?
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, so let me bring up this trailer so that you guys can see kind of like what the colony looks like, right? And like kind of like what the effects is, because I don't know exactly what they're gonna do with it. Like, that's what I was thinking too. I don't know if they're going to use TCG to attack other colonies or how that's gonna work out. But let's take a look at this thing real quick. So
It looks like it has like an element of tower defense or real time
yeah,
strategy to me.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say too.
Because like I remember back in the day, Command and Conquer, you would like you know to build everything, you have to get resources. You have to go get your ore miners or whatever, and then if your ore miners get attacked, your economy dies because you have no way to collect resources to pay for things. So that's what it looks like to me. Is like there's a little bit of either tower defense style of gameplay or maybe an RTS.
That's what I'm thinking too. I think it's gonna have AI avatars included into it. So like essentially what I'm thinking is gonna happen is that your AI avatars are going to be hopefully designs from your cars that you own. So like you can spawn them in, like you know how you used to say like I want this many soldiers to spawn and then I'm gonna send them to do this. I want this many miners to come and do that, right? Like I feel like it's gonna have some type of aspect like that where you're gonna be able to upgrade your colony, build new resources and new equipment to resource more, right, and be able to harvest those resources quicker and stuff like that. But I think that's going to be a pretty cool element to bring into this world of Parallel, and having a TCG game plus this could provide a different experience to gamers, you know.
Yeah, I mean that looks really cool, man. I'm like the more I see from this game, the more I want to like know more about the world they're building, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of another Web3 game in this space. I'm blanking on the name, but the character has a nice booty. You know what game I'm talking about, right? With the
Farlight?
Illuvium,
Meiji?
Oh,
Illuvium.
Oh,
Illuvium.
Illuvium.
I was like, Farlight? I don't know. That's the only other game
Like
I've heard you talk about. But he's
that ass is iconic. Okay, it's iconic. I remember it because I remember it very well. But like, what they're doing in there too is like they have their main game, right, the auto battler, and then they have like the side game where like you can harvest, resources. So it
yeah,
seems like they're trying to go that direction a little bit. And this, to me, this again, it screams tower defense or maybe real time strategy game. And maybe like you said, maybe there's some integration with your cards that you have, that would give the cards more value, in my opinion. Because then they're not just used to battle in TCG; they're also used to get more resources
right.
and more token. So uh, yeah,
Well,
that's
and I
kind of
think it
exciting.
was I think it was JRP who I heard talking about like having a rental system for cars.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
if it was an element like that where your cars could be used to like gather resources in colony, that would bring even more value to that rental system, right? Because now if I know that there's a strategy in place for gathering resources, right, and this particular car makes that time shorter or quicker or whatever the case is, or it gives me more resources, I'm gonna want to have that car. So if I have a way to go to another player that has it and rent it from them and utilize it in my colony, since again, this is going to be a multiplayer experience, right? So all the other colonies are going to be around you as well. So again, we got to see where they go with this, because what if other colonies can come to your colony and support you in gathering resources, right? Or maybe trading resources between colony to colony. Like, there's so many possibilities here with that type of stuff. But I do like the fact of having the cars have some type of purpose within that game.
Yeah, and it seems like it's driving utility for the token as well. So that's a good thing to have. Like, because there's so many games that have tokens that don't have any purpose for the token. Like,
Hmm.
it's just a crypto V buck at the end of the day,
Yeah,
and there's no utility for it. I'm not gonna say who, but you know who I'm talking about.
a lot of
But
them.
there's no well, there's one in particular, but they have no utility, and it's like the price of the token doesn't really move, but one way down. And the reason why it goes one way down is because there's nothing to buy or sell or trade.
Right.
So you
That
know,
that game rhymes with Static Craft. I mean, you know, and
Mizzy's picking
the
up what I put down.
Yeah.
the one thing I will say that I do like about Parallel is the gameplay itself. I'm gonna rate it. I would say 6.5, and I think that's actually very generous. And I'm not generous that I'm being generous to them. I don't rate any Web3 game over like a 7, 8, because we're early. Uh, I will say that I do like the fact that Parallel has brought a lot of the other aspects of Web3 to start paying attention to our space. Like there's NFT people playing because as they were doing their beta launch, they actually activated NFT communities. They gave Pudgy Penguins early access to the beta. We managed to get in because we have friends that are in high places and they got us the access keys and stuff like that. But for the everyday Web3 person, they didn't have any, unless they knew someone in the gaming space, they didn't have any way to join. So Parallel has actually been going around and reaching out to these NFT communities and getting them involved. So there was a bunch of the penguins that started playing Parallel, and
Yeah.
a lot of traders from the like the DeFi and degen space have started paying attention to the game because they're trading the token. And that isn't the focal point of the gameplay, obviously, but it's really interesting to see all these like DeFi trading accounts that I used to follow back when I was a degen start talking about the prime chart, and they're like, the chart looks good and it's holding up strong. I think that all these aspects have to come together to create a successful Web3 game. You want speculators and traders because they offer liquidity to the token, and because Parallel is thinking about how to integrate their token into the actual the gameplay itself, it makes everyone a lot more excited on how they can get involved with the game, from a trading perspective, from an NFT perspective, and from a gameplay perspective. So I'll give them like a 6.5 on the gameplay, but honestly, I'd give them an 8 on bringing everyone else together. Because aside from the early Axie days, they're the only other game I've really seen actually do it.
Yeah, man. I guess I want to circle back to what you were saying, right? Like, where you don't rank any Web3 games like higher than a 7 or like around a 7. And I feel like there's been a couple titles where people have maybe felt a little bit different and ranked it a little bit higher, right? Like when I think of like a game like Metapixel, right? And like the fun that we had with that, and like I think a lot of people rated that game like in the high like 9s to 10s, just because of based on the gameplay experience, that they were able to have. And unfortunately, we did receive some sad news about Metapixels. I believe it was earlier this week or maybe last week. But how are you guys feeling, man? How do I already see you crying, bro? I know we had a lot of fun in there, but how are you feeling about this news?
It sucks. It's just a shitty situation. Can't say I didn't see it coming. Again, I don't know why they turn off the servers. They had talks of extending the playtest, and they never did. Why kill a game if it's being played? Like, I don't understand why they didn't leave it on. If it was due to budget constraints, like make us pay for something and make it make sense for us to pay something. Like maybe there's some kind of benefit pass or community pass that we can use, that we know are using blockchain tech, right? Because we're here in the first place. Maybe you want to bring the game to market. Let people create content and talk about your game like we were, and don't shut off the servers. You took all this time to make a game for it to be played, and now you're going to turn it off for what reason? I mean, if it's for maintenance, like, you can do that. There's server maintenance all the time. There's server maintenance in every single game, especially in games like that where they have these big giant worlds. So how am I feeling? I'm feeling very disappointed. I'm not surprised. And I'll end it with this. Like, hopefully somebody comes in and like picks up the project, like, financially, and decides to just turn on the fucking servers, because the game wasn't broken by any means. There were some balancing issues that could be addressed. I'm not gonna lie, but I think that everyone that liked to play the game was there. They played the game. Some people didn't get to play the game for that long because it was 2 weeks, and people were grinding at the end to get the hoodie, right? So now the hoodie doesn't have any meaning. It feels kind of hollow, like, to have the hoodie if you even got the hoodie. And I didn't grind for the hoodie because I was mad that it was being turned off, right? So, like, I understand when games do tests to make sure the servers run well when the game goes live, but that wasn't the case with this. It was like, we're bringing a game to market in this form in Web3, and we're going to turn it off after 2 weeks with no intent, or we have no knowledge of when it's going to turn back on. So any experience that I got from that, positive or negative, I never knew when I was going to play it again. And the fact that we got a good experience with a bunch of people that created content across the, I mean, we're talking YP, we're talking Erica, you,
Everyone in Web3,
Mizzy,
man. Everyone in Web3.
Money was there, Prof was there. They even had a freaking idol system to show, like, fans and people playing with their fans, right? So it was the first creator league. To be frank, it was the first creator league,
Yeah.
and it was successful until they turned off the goddamn servers.
Yeah, and just to provide a little bit more context here for anybody that doesn't know what Metapixel is or knows what we're talking about the game GranSaga. And recently they just announced that they're sorry, I pulled up the wrong one. I'm sorry about that. Let me reshare the screen real quick, because they did pull up an article saying that the team suddenly disbanded, and that's what we're talking about here, right? Like, this game was huge, and I agree with Hado. I think I'm confused, because to me, Grand Saga was one of those games that felt like it was playable, man. It was grindable with what we have. So I don't understand the reason why they had to close down the servers in the first place. To me, they should have just gone into open development and let the servers run, and basically treat it as an update, right? Like, okay, guys, we're gonna do an update for the new snapshot or whatever you want to call it, and allow players to continue playing it as you're making those updates, because the game felt like grindable.
And one more thing, this was like a game that anybody could play in any region. That's another thing too. So, like,
Right.
anybody could hop in from any region and play, and that's how it connected us even further. People were playing from Malaysia to New York to Cali to Texas, everywhere, Albania, everywhere.
I mean, hell, dude, we were meeting people inside the game that weren't even in our guild, you know?
True.
I was talking to people in game chat, you know, like, and random people were playing it. So, like, we were playing with other people from other guilds that would come into our Discord server and start grinding out with us, you know? So, like, it just brought so many gamers together. And the fact that they made the playtest so short, because I remember that was the week that I was out of the country. So I only got like less than a week to play Grand Saga. I think I had got about like 4 days or so to grind it out. And then the playtest ended, you know? So to me, that was a huge letdown. And the fact that all of this is happening now, and the little amount of information that we've gotten from the Metapixel team as to where this is heading, what's happening, what's going to happen to the incentives that some people were able to grind out for, right? Such as the hoodie, the mounts, all of that stuff is kind of like disappointing, because this was a team that a lot of people had a lot of faith on, and to end this way is just, I don't know, almost catastrophic, you know?
So to add to the context of everything, I found I found out that the game was going to potentially be taken down a week from today. And when I found out, it was through a DM from a friend. And to have to relay this message to our guild was honestly really heartbreaking, because I think a lot of our early success can be attributed to this game as a guild.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun to play. I still would rate it at like a 7. I had certain problems with the game, but that's besides the point. I think that it was a very unique experience, and for me, like, Metapixel will always have a special place in my heart. As a kid that grew up playing MMORPGs every
Hmm.
single day for like 10 years, to be invited to what it could have potentially have been the earliest, one of the most successful MMORPGs in Web3, was honestly like an iconic moment for me, because it was like, yo, like, I'm gonna be an idol in this game that could potentially like change the space. So that, from a personal perspective, it really sucked. I agree with you guys. I hated the fact that they shut down the servers. NPixel is actually a very successful Web2 MMORPG developer. So I think it was more of them trying out a couple of titles at once and figuring out where they are really wanting to focus on in the next coming year or two. Because they basically disassembled their entire metaverse team.
Yeah.
So it looked like they just chose to go in a different direction. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. More than it not being successful, maybe they just feel something else has more potential. It brought so many people together. It was such an iconic moment for our space. And I agree with Hado. It was the original creator league for us. Everyone came together. Everyone was talking about it. You couldn't talk about any other game in those 2 weeks. The first 5 games, the first 5 days, all I did was play Metapixel. I completely abandoned all my responsibilities. I did everything that I wasn't supposed to do, because I was like, fuck it, we ball, bro. Like, when the fuck else do you get invited to one of the major, first beta, play testing type of situations for a game in your favorite genre with a bunch of your friends? Like, it'll always have a special place in my heart for that reason. And I was very upset. I'm still really upset. I was looking forward to playing it, because I forged a lot of the people that I talk to every day now. Like, those relationships were born from that game. Addis is someone that I talk to every day now, and he and I really bonded over Metapixel. Like, those late nights up in Discord talking shit with the homies while you're fucking grinding an MMO, like, that really brings people together. So to have that kind of ripped away from us really sucks. And I'm not even gonna act like I'm okay about it. Like, I'm not. Like, obviously, like, I'm a grown man. I'm not gonna fucking like cry about it and shit. But like, for like the 10-year-old version of me would be fucking crying right now. Like, I know Money Plane was devastated. Addis is devastated. Maddox was devastated. We're all really upset. If is any way that we could get the game back, we would all take it in a heartbeat. It just, I hope that their team hasn't officially announced that they're not going to, continue development. So there is like a little ray of hope. It's looking pretty bleak, though. I'll be honest. I've been reaching out to some people, and I'm not getting very good feedback, because basically I'm not getting anything. So, and usually, in situations like this, when you're not hearing anything, it's pretty much like the nail in the coffin. So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep my
Yeah.
hopes up and pray for the best, to be honest. But I'm really
No,
upset.
I do hope that they find like the funding for it and are able to continue developing and continue to run it, but it doesn't look promising. I agree with that. And I think for the gamers involved, like everybody that got to try it out, it's more about like the experiences themselves rather than the game itself. It's like all those experiences that we were able to garnish while playing the game and like getting to know each other. And I think that was something that was a huge gap in web3 gaming, where it never felt like that. And that's what GranSaga did for us. It provided us a way to like really connect with the web3 world, like of gamers, and for them to build experiences that were like bonding, and like so I think that's the number one thing people are gonna miss, and it really does suck. But hopefully they're able
Yeah.
to pull forward and able to develop the game still.
And like another friendship that I made in that game was Brian, the social media manager for Click. Like
Yeah,
he and I really like shit talked each other during that
your
experience.
nemesis.
And yeah, and being able to run dungeons with that team over there. Like Angel ended up becoming one of our guild members because of the game. Because I met her when I was running dungeons with Brian, and then she ended up joining our Discord and becoming a part of our community. And Maddox was actually one of Dub's idol fans, because Dub was an idol, and that's how Maddox ended up in our Discord. And now Maddox is a really big part of everything we do. So it's just
True.
it's just deflating, man. Like it fucking sucks.
It does, man. But you know what? As far as like Catalyst and the people in there, we'll find new games to build those type of experiences, man. That's what we're all about. And that's what I love our group so much, is because even with these things happening, we're still able to have that type of vibe inside our server and in any game that we go and play together. So I think that's gonna go a lot more of a long way than any game can. It's the experiences that you have within your groups of players and like people that you play those games with. So I'm excited for the future, but this one does kind of like stings a little bit, and it's kind of like heartbreaking. But again, man, we'll see where it goes. That's all we can do from here. It kind of goes to show that as gamers and content creators, yes, we should be providing valuable feedback to the developing teams, but at the same time, they have all the power of when it comes to like developing these games, right? So our job should be focused more on educating the people coming into our world, building those type of relationships, having those type of experiences available in a space, right? So that gamers can feel like they belong somewhere. That's what our focus should be as communities. It shouldn't be more about like worrying like whether we have control of the developing side of things, because we don't. And these things happen all the time in gaming, where a team loses funding, or the umbrella brand, right, closes down that sector of the game or something like that. So again, we'll see where it goes. But what are you guys' closing thoughts, man, on all of this that we discussed today, going from Parallel all the way to the Creator League and Metapixel?
Closing thoughts. So, I'm talking to developers. Well, I want to push back a little bit on what you said. Like,
Go for
we
it.
definitely do have power to influence developers, because at the end of the day, who's playing the games? Us.
Right.
So if we do have a voice, and they may not listen to it, but they can at least consider it, or uh like kind of just take that as some kind of feedback. Whether they want to, rock with it or not, that's up to them. But to me, um moving forward, these games need to focus on making sure that they listen to the people and follow the people that are making the content, especially if you're in the Web3 space, because you never know who's playing your game and how they feel about it. But if you find people that are passionate about the game you're playing, um, wouldn't you want to keep making them make content, or keep making them happy, right? And then to those that don't like it, listen to them and hear why they don't like it, and take it to heart. Not to be like nefarious or bad about it, but like, well, you're not going to please everybody, but I still want to make that person enjoy something, right? So take away something positive from my game. And sometimes it's, you can't like help it, like people are just being negative Nancy's, right? But like, all I'm trying to say is like feedback and constructive criticism will definitely make your game better, and will help your game out in the long run. Especially because people are taking the time out of the day to play your game, and if they're doing that out of the kindness of their heart and genuine curiosity, and they're not even paying them for that, you should definitely listen to them, because they might have something good to say. Um, as far as Creator League is concerned, be transparent, guys. Like, be transparent straight up. That's how you fix that, and target the right audience for this stuff. Because like, again, they schedule times at like noon. Like, they're trying to get kids to play the games with the creators. Why are you doing it when school starts or is going on? It's lunchtime. Like, they can't play. Like, it's kind of weird. And then Parallel, I really do like the direction they're going. I like that they're thinking not just one avenue, they're thinking multiple. But they're doing it in a way that's like, uh, let's make sure this side's good and let's move to the next side. Let's make sure that side's good, move to that. Because if you're trying to do everything at once, it can be kind of like too complicated, and then you're not going to have focus on one thing. And it's better to do something right than do nothing right, right? Because like you could do a bunch of things and do nothing right. So, but yeah, that's my closing thoughts. And yeah, I really am bummed out by Megapixel. I stayed up a lot of hours, like grinding a game away, and like that's the thing is like when you find a game, regardless if it's Web3 or Web2, that you really love to grind. Right now, it's Streetfighter for me. Like the hours that I put into that, like I don't want to get rug pulled by it, and like I can't access it no more. So the biggest thing, my biggest closing thought is open the goddamn floodgates. Open the servers. Open them. Let us play the game. Maybe not that one because it's done right, but like whenever you open the gates, leave them open. Let them play. Let the players play.
Absolutely.
For my closing thoughts on Creator League, I think that is a fine example of what happens when you don't factor in the integrity of what our space stands for, and when you do things in a way that it shouldn't be done. I also do think that is what happens when you try to go too mainstream without catering to the people that have been in the trenches for this industry. I do think that, the world's future biggest creators, whether they're in Web3 now or not, will probably natively come from Web3. Because you, as a content creator in Web3, you need to speak so many languages. So I think we're going to end up in a world where we have content creators that know how to speak about finance, assets, and games, and that ends up becoming like the next Mr. Beast, right? Because I think you need to be well rounded to be a dominant content creator in our space. It's going to be very easy to float in multiple spaces, and I think that those are going to be the kind of people that understand and are educated enough to educate the masses. And I think it's very important that before doing another thing like Creator League, shout out to Bryson for, really be taking that shield for our space and basically, dying by his sword kind of shit. And I think that we as a space should have been more supportive of that. And we also as a space like need to put ourselves in positions where these bigger companies want to reach out to us, right? Because we can complain all day long, but put in the work to grow on those Web2 platforms like TikTok so that the next time a Creator League does come around, your name actually gets brought up. Because, tweeting to the same like 100 people that interact in our fucking Twitter echo chamber isn't enough.
Yeah.
As far as Parallel, I love what I'm seeing about them. I love the fact that they have big dick energy for a fucking TCG. Like they're letting, no, seriously, like they're letting their nuts hang with this shit. Like they're not backing off the fact that
Well,
they're a
we all know
Web3
you
game.
love that type of energy. So,
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
they're
Like
doing
they're like,
something
yo,
right.
they're like, yo, we got NFTs, we got the Prime token. Fuck you if you don't like it. This is what we got, bro. Like, you know, you can play the game without the NFTs, but you can actually earn Prime token if you have like an entire NFT card deck. So there actually feels like there's a reason behind getting the NFTs rather than just feeling like they're farming you for money. Some people will say it's like, pay to win, but life is pay to win. So get the fuck over it. That's just my take on it, right? And as far as Metapixel, I mean, I'm grateful for the game because a lot of the people I talked to today, uh, you know, came from that game. I'm very upset that NPixel could potentially not be continuing development on it. But from a business perspective, if they feel that something else is more lucrative, they're going to take that, 10 times out of 10. And there's nothing that we can do about it. They have to keep the lights on. They have, staff to pay and business that they have to handle. That's just the nature of it. And that's the beauty of Web3 and also the I guess the depressing side of it. Like the beauty of it is the highs and the lows. Because we're so early, we're gonna have these battle scars and these stories where we're like, yo, like, there was this game that brought everyone all together, and at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like, everyone loves to say, it was the friends we made along the way. That's what really mattered at that, at the end. And I'm grateful for it. And hopefully, they surprise us. But if not, it'll always kind of have like a place in my heart. And, I'm grateful that we were able to have such a moment with it. And we'll find another game. I mean, right now we're starting to grind big time. And big time is actually looking pretty juicy. I've enjoyed my
Yeah.
experience with it so far. I'm going to go and play that right after this podcast. So, yeah. Shout out
Awesome,
Vinny
man.
for hooking me up with that, by the way. And sorry to cut
Hell
you off,
yeah,
Clouds.
bro. No. Hell yeah. Beanie's a legend, man. I'm excited to start hopping into Big Time too, because Big Time looks really, really colorful, and like it's just a different take in MMORPGs than I've seen before. So I'm super excited to jump in there with you guys this afternoon, man. But guys, I think this is a great stopping point for episode 3 of the Catalyst Effect podcast. As always, I'm your host, Klaus, and with me is Hado and Missy. We'll see you guys on episode 4. Peace.
Peace.